All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are talking about something huge, the absolute backbone of India's economy and its culture, agriculture. We're going to explore how a nation of over 1 billion people actually feeds itself, and we'll follow the story from ancient traditions all the way to the critical changes happening right now.
First off, you've got to understand the sheer scale we're dealing with. A staggering 2/3 of India's entire population is involved in agriculture. It's so much more than just a job. For millions, it's a way of life that produces the food on our plates and the raw materials for countless industries. But behind these huge numbers, it's all about people. Let's start with this story of a young girl named Rinja from a village in Assam. She just loves her home, loves helping her family water the fields. But here's the thing she doesn't know. The very land they rely on is losing its richness, and her family is already having to think about finding a new place to farm. Her story, it's a perfect window into the oldest kind of farming in India.
So, what Rinja's family does is a method that's been used for literally thousands of years. Her story gives us a peek into what's called primitive farming. So let's take a closer look at exactly how that works. The method is called slash and burn agriculture. It's a type of primitive subsistence farming. So here's how it works. It's a cycle. Farmers clear a patch of land, and they grow just enough food for their family. But after a while, the soil's nutrients get used up. So they shift to a whole new area, leaving the old one to heal and recover naturally. But slash and burn, that's just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. Across a country as vast as India, you've got several major farming systems all running at the same time. So let's get a bird's eye view of them. Okay, if you boil it down, farming in India really falls into three main buckets. First, you've got primitive subsistence, like what Rinja's family is doing. Then there's intensive subsistence farming, which is all about dealing with high population pressure. And finally, you have modern commercial farming, which, as the name suggests, is all about growing for the market. And right here, you can see the fundamental split. On one hand, subsistence farming is all about family labor, simple tools, and basically growing food to survive. On the other hand, commercial farming uses all the modern stuff, high-yield seeds, fertilizers, machinery, to get the biggest possible harvest to sell. They are two totally different worlds. Now, that middle category, intensive subsistence farming, is all defined by one thing: immense pressure on the land. What happens is, because of inheritance laws, land gets divided up between children, generation after generation. This means the plots just get smaller and smaller, forcing farmers to squeeze every last drop of produce out of very, very limited space. Now, no matter what system a farmer uses, all farming in India moves to a very distinct rhythm, a cycle that's dictated entirely by the seasons. And if you want to understand Indian agriculture, you have to understand this calendar. India basically has three distinct cropping seasons. First up is rabi, which is the winter season. Then comes kharif, which lines up with the monsoon rains. And kind of squeezed in between those two is a short little summer season they call zaid. Let's break that down a little bit more. Rabi crops like wheat and peas are planted in the winter and then harvested in the early summer. Then you have the kharif crops, think rice and maize. They get planted right when the monsoon starts and are harvested in the fall. The whole thing just works like a perfectly timed natural clock. So what do you get when you put all these systems and seasons together? An absolutely incredible, mind-blowing diversity of crops. Let's do a quick run-through of some of the heavy hitters in India's agricultural output. Okay, first and foremost, you have rice. It is the staple food for most of the country. And get this, India is the second largest producer of rice in the entire world, just after China.
It's a kharif crop, so it loves the high temperatures and all that humidity that comes with the monsoon.
The second most important cereal is wheat. Now, wheat is a rabi crop, making it the main food source in the northern and northwestern parts of the country. It needs that cool growing season and lots of bright sunshine when it's time to ripen.
But hold on, it is so much more than just rice and wheat. The variety is just staggering. You've got hearty millets, protein-packed pulses, commercial giants like sugarcane, and of course, beverage crops like tea and coffee. And let's not forget fiber crops like cotton and jute, which are just crucial for industry.
And to put all this into a global context, just look at this. By 2020, India had become the world's second largest producer of several key crops, including rice, tea, and cotton. So this isn't just about feeding one nation. It's a massive contribution to the global food supply.
So you might be wondering, how on earth does a country manage an agricultural sector this massive and this complex? Well, that brings us to the challenges and the really critical reforms that have been put in place over the decades. But there is a core challenge. I mean, for thousands of years, this land has been farmed continuously. When you combine that with a population that's growing incredibly fast, you get this immense strain on development. It's a huge ongoing issue that requires constant new ideas and government support. And in response, India has gone through these massive waves of reform. Right after independence, the big focus was on institutional changes, like fixing the problem of fragmented land. Then you had the huge technological shifts in the 60s and 70s, big development programs in the 80s and 90s, and now the direct support programs for farmers that we see today. One of the most important shifts was something called the Green Revolution. The key here wasn't just planting more stuff. It was a whole strategy built around what they called package technology, basically combining high-yield seeds with fertilizers and proper irrigation. This approach totally transformed food production and made India self-sufficient in food grains. But it also brought new problems, like using way more water and degrading the soil.
And that support system is still going strong today through a whole bunch of different measures. You've got crop insurance to protect against disasters, special rural banks for credit, the Kisan credit card for easy loans, and a minimum support price to protect farmers from being exploited in the market. Which brings us to this final massive question. We've seen a system that's rooted in ancient tradition, that was transformed by a revolution, and is now facing the incredible pressure of a growing population on shrinking land. For families just like Rinja's, their entire future depends on the answer to this. How will India's agricultural story evolve from here? The next chapter is still being written. Thanks for joining me.